exactly who you are and exactly the way you are. And you love them unconditionally, exactly who they are and exactly the way they are. And finding that is something to celebrate. So that is worth a celebration.
Yeah.
That is worth celebrating, like, wow, I met somebody who really gets me and I really get them. And we are going to continue to support each other's growth of being the best versions of each other. That's
Yes.
worth celebrating.
Absolutely. Yeah. Have a big party for that. By all means, do
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if people want to be excited that I met somebody and I have created a fantastic relationship, that it's gone, a lot of work has gone into creating this honest, epic sex, communication, ownership of who we are, pushing each other and calling each other out on when we're being asshats, and looking at each other's shit. If you want to celebrate that with me, I will squeal with you and even do some bum dancing about the accomplishment of co-creating that kind of a relationship.
Yeah. Fuck yeah. Absolutely. And that, like, I love that idea because that is the end result of a lot of fucking work that has been put in. That's the end result. Whereas, like, the way that we are taught to think about marriage is to celebrate the beginning of something that is going to be a lot of work if you are doing it right. And I mean, there's nothing wrong with celebrating the beginning of something, but there's no subsequent celebration built into our culture for, look, we successfully did the thing. Look how awesome that is. Like, I mean, I guess anniversaries are for that, but that's supposed to be celebrated within the couple. There's not like giant, like, we made it to 20 years, let's have a huge party celebrations. And maybe that should be a thing. Like, I would love to go to somebody's 20-year celebration of having done the work. That sounds like a great time.
Yeah. And do they really like each other still after 20 years?
Yeah, it could actually, it could be part celebration, part everybody like examining everything that you're doing. Sleuthing out the truth.
Yeah, like that should be like, it should be like on stage, should be like, okay, let's ask some questions, So how much do you still like each other? What's your sex life like? Do you still have sex with each other?
Right? Not the newlywed game, the like, we've been at this for a while game.
Exactly. Who did you figure out, how did you co-create your cohabitation? How is that going? How's your cohabitation going? What about childbearing? Like all the things. What about money? Like these are the things. Like, did you manage them?
Yeah. How painful was it? How painful is it still?
Exactly. Exactly.
I mean, yeah,
scars.
Mental or physical.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, yeah, I guess I want to put like, a tiny bit of a disclaimer on this to say, like, obviously if you're someone who wants to get married and that's like a big deal for you, or if you're someone who did get married and you had an awesome, like totally, normalized Western wedding, like fucking great. That's awesome. Like, nobody here is looking down on you for following a script if you're really into that script. But the main thing is like, examine the script and think about whether it's something that works for you or not before you decide that you're going to completely follow it. It's because it is a script and it was written by people who are not necessarily looking out for what's best for you as an individual. So, take it with a grain of salt, like everything else.
Yeah. All right.
Well, I feel like that was a great conversation.
Yeah. As always, you and I get together, we have great conversations.
Yeah, and while we're at it, can you tell our listeners where they can hear other conversations that you have with me and other people, and anywhere else you'd like to direct them on the internet so that they can find out more about what you do?
So the best place to start is to go visit my website hub, which is the hub of my empire. of all the things that I do in the world, is to go to GaiaMorrissette.com. And from there, you can go to all the little subsections of the world, all the different worlds that I navigate and dance and play in. And then for my podcast, I have two podcasts. I host two podcasts. One's called My Orgasmic Life, where Lindsay has been on the show quite frequently. She is my porn expert. So we have
Thank you.
awesome conversations, probably every 3 or 4 months, around something to do related to porn. And then I also host Tickle.life's podcast with Lindsay's also been on, talking about one of her first, sexy experiences.
Yeah, it's a juicy one.
It's a very juicy topic. So I highly recommend go visiting and listening to those episodes as well. So
yeah, we get on pretty well. And I would love to have you back on, like you said, like a year from now, to kind of talk about like the ongoing marriage experiment and where you found yourself within the cult at that point. So let's make that happen.
All right, let's do it. Let's do it. And again, just like Lindsay's disclaimer, I really want to say that by no means do I have a judgment around any choice that people make for themselves. My experiment that I'm doing is because I find human behavior incredibly intriguing and fascinating, and it's a part of who I am and how I move in the world. And I'm very excited about the historical references of why we do what we do now, based on what happened hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years ago. And so that's why I really have leaned into this place around marriage. So I really want the listeners to take away that, like anything, we just need to question it.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter what it is. Question it. And then you can decide for yourself consciously, does this work for me? And how do I want to make this work for me if it does work for me? Right. So that we're not we're not moving from this place of automatic movement, of being on autopilot, and then finding out 5 years, 10 years, 15 years from now that we regret and have resentment and hate our lives. And we didn't live our lives to the fullest because we never asked the question, do I want to do this? And if so, why? And how do I make this mine?
Yes. Thank you for saying that. Like, because, a lot of the things that we're discussing about, marriage being an enslavement of women is really doesn't have to be true anymore. You can get married and be in a much more egalitarian situation than you could have in, like 1400 in England or whatever. And that's great, by all means, if you want to marry someone and make it your own, that's a new script that you get to write. So, we're not judging anyone here, but we are saying, maybe judge the script a little bit.
Yeah, look at the script and what is the narrative and why, and is that a narrative that you decide? It's about that. I really think it's that piece around conscious decision. I consciously choose this. If I'm going to wear a white dress, it's because I look pretty in a white dress. I'm not wearing a white dress because somebody told me that I had to wear a white dress and that's all I need to do. If, question, why am I doing this? And is it my choice, or is it a choice that somebody else has made for me?
Yeah. That's one of the awesome things about the world we live in now is that, for the most part, women do get to make choices now. Sometimes they're made a little bit more under duress than we would like. There's a lot of gray areas there, but we certainly do have a lot more control over what we choose to do with our lives than, the people we were talking about who had to be nuns or married or prostitutes. So
and I do want to put a little disclaimer on that piece too, that for some women around the world, we are still facing the same choices.
Yes.
And marriage is also an enslavement for some women, or the only option for survival. And so I think it's really, yes, in North America, in in different demographics and different social economic demographics, some of us have more options and more power and more choices. But there are plenty of women still all over the world, including in North America, that may only have that option to survive.
Right. Yeah, that's really, really important point to make. Thank you for saying that.
Yeah. So my heart goes out if that's the only option that you have in your life for survival. And if there's any way that I can support you in in finding a new way out, if that's what you need, then please reach out.
Yeah, by all means. We're on the internet, and that story that is the true story for a lot of people is so important, and it's one that, from my place of like privilege, it's hard for me to see and understand. So if that is your story, please reach out. It's important that it gets heard.
Beautiful. Thanks for having me on the show, my dear.
Thank you for coming. This is a great time. And yeah, we'll circle back around in about a year and we'll see what's going on. And whether you had that orgy, and whether you had the giant party and the naked wedding at the nudist resort.
Yeah, so when I end up having the naked wedding at the nudist resort, once COVID is done, you'll be an invite. I'll give you an invite.
Fabulous! Oh my God, that sounds amazing.
So you can be there, and we can maybe even do some live streaming of on-site podcast.
We could live stream feeding each other cake nude. It'll be fantastic. But they won't let us put it on YouTube or Facebook. So be a pay-per-view event.
Not necessarily if we put cake over our boobs. So there's no nipple shots.
Right. It's only the nipple that matters. So
it's only the nipple. So we cover the nipples with cake.
This is a perfect plan.
And we can totally air it.
Awesome. All right. It's on the books. Just tell me the date when you've got it. I'll put it in the planner.
Excellent. Perfect.
All right. Well, thank you all for listening. And we'll be back. I'll be back with Lenny when she's done doing her hot girl shit in a few weeks to talk about something amazing again. Thanks for listening.
Let our love be a flame, not an ember. Say it's me that you want to dismember. Blacken my eye, set fire to my tie as we dance to the masochism tango. At your command, before you here I stand. My heart is in my hand. Ugh. It's here that I must be. My heart entreats. Just hear those savage beats, and go put on your cleats and come and trample me. Your heart is hard as stone or mahogany. That's why I'm in such exquisite agony. My soul is on fire. It's aflame with desire, which is why I perspire when we tango. You caught my nose in your left castanet, love. I can feel the pain yet, love, every time I hear drums. And I envy the rose that you held in your teeth, love, with the thorns underneath, love, sticking into your gums. Your eyes cast a spell that bewitches. The last time I needed 20 stitches to to sew up the gash that you made with your lash as we dance to the masochism tango. Bash in my brain and make me scream with pain, then kick me once again and say we'll never part.